intent. Everything comes down to motive when you think about it. And these people, they have a motive. The kingdom of darkness has a motive. We're going to talk about that. I wanted to remind you, and I'm not trying to be repetitive, because some of the things that I say are they're gonna be redundant, okay? But this is important, and it kind of goes along with last night's video. And that is, don't be manipulated. When you run into a situation, when you have an attack, whatever it is, I don't care if it's a synchronicity, I don't care if it's street theater, I don't care what it is. There is intent behind it. There is a motive. And just like when I talked about, the whole emotional connection to the sensitization process, to the trauma-based infiltration of your mind, you got to remember that. You got to remember that when you process this information, that's the point to where the manipulation begins. Okay, it's just use traffic for an example. If you're driving in traffic and you process the information differently when things happen to you, if somebody cuts you off in traffic, if whatever happens, someone's aggressive or they bright you or whatever kind of thing happens to you, right there at that point, you can process that information and you can control your reaction and where your emotions and all those things are going to go. Okay. During the day, you can have the mentality, and this is kind of what I do, that everybody else wins. Okay. If somebody, tries to offend you, or they jump in front of you while you're in line at the grocery store, for example, just let them do it. Have the protocol that everyone else gets that preeminent position, because what's going to happen is if you're constantly trying to redeem that sense of injustice that they are throwing at you, and make no mistake, that is part and parcel of this whole thing, you are going to get frustrated. You are going to get angry because these things are assaulting you. Whether you're experiencing a noise campaign, whether, people are using personal information, whether they're using subtle and silent, tactics to where they're giggling and looking at you, or, looking at you up and down as if there's something wrong with you, or you feel excluded from the group, or you're getting harassed at work and, you're in fear for your job or whatever. When you try to, stand up for yourself in an aggressive way, that's when the problems happen. Okay, that's when your emotions, give them that control. That's when you become manipulated. You have to remember the truth. You have to remember that they really haven't taken anything from you. Okay? It's obvious that you're being attacked. You can't deny reality. But, you have to remember that they're just puppets. And you have to remember that there's a motive, that there is an objective, that the intent of this whole thing is to manipulate you emotionally. That's the whole thing. If they can do that, they can do anything. They can take you anywhere. When you see all those people that get involved in the mass shootings, or, all those other types of events, the guy, that, was downtown and blew the place up on Christmas morning, all these things are just, ways of leading people into a place through, all this stimuli, through manipulating their emotions and, getting them into a frame of mind, into a train of thinking. It's really what's going on. Whether it's making you depressed or angry, whatever it is. And you got to be careful, because a lot of times they will use positive stimuli so that you go up and down. And then, that can lead to the place where you become hopeless, and it makes you vulnerable. Anytime you're getting too excited about something, you got to watch out. I've seen that happen a lot. People will pay attention to things because they feel safe, and they will use that positive reinforcement to get you to pay attention to how people are reacting to you, and then they'll change the stimuli. And all that's going to do is set you up. It just sets you up because, now you are feeding off that positive feedback, and all they got to do is switch it. You need to process it rationally. You need to realize that you are dealing with human beings who are being manipulated, and the way they react and the way they process information is usually irrational. Okay, and you cannot let them control you. You cannot let them manipulate you in any way, shape, or form. First, there is an intent. There is a motive. There's a plan. Then there's the puppets. There's the mechanism, the stimuli that all these things work through. And you need to remember that, because if you don't, they're going to just knock you around like a little pinball. And it sucks. And the other thing you have to remember is the spiritual reality of this. A lot of times it's easy to forget that people can be manipulated. You have to be aware of that. And you have to, draw near to God and ask Him for help. This is His world. Doesn't mean that you can expect things to change. If that were the case, God wouldn't have, let people have free will. He wouldn't have let any of this happen. He would have been, some kind of Machiavellian control freak, and none of this would have come about. You have to remember that, right off the bat, okay? That, just because things are unpleasant or whatever doesn't mean that God can't use them. And, at that point, you just have to trust and keep going, because really it doesn't matter. This is not your world. It's His. And, He has allowed these principalities and powers to have control. He's allowed them to have authority. And you have to remember that He has ultimate authority. And you can't read into that too much. You just have to trust that He is going to work these things out. Okay? For your good. No matter what you're dealing with. And then you have to remember the biblical examples instead of doing lateral comparisons with the people around you. Because the devil loves that. Well, if you were only like such and so, then you wouldn't be angry, or you wouldn't be depressed, or you wouldn't, be this way or that way. You just don't have faith. Or no, that's not what happened. And you have to remember the people that messed up in the Bible. You have to remember Joseph. You have to remember John the Baptist, for crying out loud. Christ had to say, blessed is he who's not offended in me. Because, he was getting offended. He didn't understand God's plan. And he was in prison for I think, 2 years. Joseph, he was in prison for, over a decade. All these things have to be remembered. Otherwise, the kingdom of darkness is going to use that to make you feel condemned and as though God doesn't like you. And, He's not faithful to you or whatever. You have to remember that. And just let things be. You do what you can. You process information the best you can. And then you just let everything work its, self out. There's only so much you can do. Guys, be good to yourselves. Be safe.